Is it possible to make a coin using elements of your body? Typically, a person has 0.14 ounces of iron in their body, while you need 0.2 ounces to make a coin. But your little secret will save you. You have hemochromatosis, a condition where your intestines absorb 5 times more iron from food than necessary. As a result, your liver suffers, and your pride. I've never seen anyone so happy about liver cirrhosis before. You've extracted 250 milligrams of iron this time. Only 22 more procedures until salvation. These are the most expensive 25 cents of your life, but it looks like you'll need to make another coin.
He is one of the 25 million Americans who do not have access to the internet. In general, an interesting fact is that 6 billion people have access to smartphones and only 4.5 have access to a working toilet. And this is Arnold. Incidentally, which year could be considered the worst for humanity? For Canada, 1917 would definitely be at the top. That year, the ship Mont Blanc was carrying 3,000 tons of explosives to Canada. Arnold, hold the wheel! With such a quantity of explosives, I would even pick my nose slowly and carefully. Arnold, what are you doing? That is not food. Mont Blanc lost control and collided with another ship. An explosion occurred, which is considered the most powerful non-nuclear explosion in history. The shockwave spread 23 times faster than the speed of sound. Even people living 200 kilometers away from the epicenter felt it. The heat was so intense that the water at the epicenter of the explosion evaporated, and the water that rushed in its place turned into a tsunami 18 meters or 60 feet high, completely destroying the city and its surroundings.
Did you know that beans not only make you fart, but they also help regenerate very important tissues in your body? These tissues are cartilage. Cartilage has a structure similar to firm jelly. It's 70% water, with the rest being a matrix containing proteins and collagen. Cartilage constantly secretes lubrication and acts as a shock absorber, reducing friction between bones. With age or due to excess weight, cartilage tissue breaks down, and bones start to rub against each other. This leads to the formation of osteophytes, or bone spurs. They hinder movement and press on tissues, causing severe pain. And yes, cartilage takes a very long time to heal. That's why you should eat beans. But it's best to do it at home.
Our brain is a supercomputer that works even when we sleep. When you run in a dream, the areas responsible for movement are also active. The same is true with visual images and the visual cortex. These areas are active during real events, which is why dreams feel like reality.
Why hasn't anyone thought of this before? To stop global warming, we need to paint the entire planet white. You must know about albedo. It's the coefficient of reflection of light by any surface. Currently, the planet absorbs 70% of solar heat. If it were completely white, that number would decrease to 5%. Almost all light and heat would be reflected back. But there are a couple of nuances. Global warming is caused not so much by the heat from the sun as by greenhouse gases that won't disappear. Also, to paint the Earth, we would need 200 trillion gallons of paint. That's $76.5 quadrillion. The United States hasn't printed even 0.2% of this amount in all its years of existence. But no worries, I know other ways to combat global warming. A callus occurs from prolonged friction or pressure on the skin. For example, if you hit the keys a lot, this is how the organism protects itself. But there are people who make calluses for themselves on purpose. For example, fighters specifically beat their hand so that calluses appear and the hand becomes stronger. But the fighters, though, make not only calluses on their skin, but also strengthen the bones. With repeated mild injuries, bone tissue is produced, and the bone literally becomes larger and stronger. Or like this. Do you want the strangest job in the world? There's an excellent vacancy. Rat tickler. Tickling rats is a serious subject for study. A total of 52 studies have been conducted and published in 36 scientific articles. And some scientists have even written dissertations based on rat tickling. Rats emit ultrasonic sounds when tickled. These sounds are inaudible to humans, but they can be recorded. The more sounds a rat emits, the more it enjoys the procedure. Tickling for 15 seconds activates the same areas of the rat's brain as playing with other rats. They become more friendly and sociable, easier to train, and tolerate veterinary procedures better. But here, Arnold, you sacrificed yourself to the rats. To science. Do you want to live up to 150 years? There's a catch. The hippocampus is responsible for spatial orientation and storing all your memories, as well as forming new ones. In elderly patients with Alzheimer's disease, as well as in patients with alcoholism, the hippocampus shrinks by 10% per year. Terrifying, isn't it? Now imagine, even in a healthy person, the hippocampus also shrinks, just more slowly, by 1% per year. So if we manage to extend life to 150 years, by the time we reach 100, we'll be lively, healthy, cheerful, and remember nothing. Although I might have exaggerated about cheerfulness, because hippocampal damage not only affects memory, but also increases levels of anxiety and aggression. We'll be angry and fearful of everyone. Did you know 90% of people are unaware of these cat facts? Cat purring is a powerful tool for self-healing. Purring at frequencies between 25 and 50 hertz can help cats regenerate tissues and bones. Cats can identify up to 80 million different scents, and even diagnose conditions like cancer or diabetes by sniffing out changes in the human body. They process massive amounts of sensory information. Sometimes they experience sensory overload, which causes them to freeze, like an old computer. What cat facts do you know?
Did you know that homework was originally a cruel punishment? Robert Nivelis is the reason for all the suffering. It was he who, in the 16th century, came up with the idea of giving homework to misbehaving students. The punishment wasn't about the work, but the psychological pressure on the student. While others rested, the student had to copy old texts. 3 centuries later, and the practice of mandatory homework had spread worldwide. Drop a like if you're totally done with homework.
Want to experience your own past life? Try hypnosis. Wow, Arnold, you had such a great past life. Or not. In reality, past lives don't exist. They're just false memories created by the brain. What a person remembers under hypnosis as a past life is a compilation of what they've seen or read. Psychotherapists use this technique to solve certain problems, but it can be dangerous. For example, one patient during a past life regression session felt as though he was lying in a coffin. He began to suffocate. After the session, the man experienced reoccurring panic attacks and breathing problems. Therefore, only a licensed therapist should conduct hypnosis sessions. Or a bum. Right, Arnold?
Do you know what makes you cooler than a monkey? You can speak. And not because you're smarter than a macaque. Macaques, chimpanzees, and gorillas have managed to learn sign language and even type on a computer. But producing articulate sounds? Nope. All thanks to the evolution of your larynx, or more precisely, the mutation of the FOXP2 gene. Modern monkeys can scream loudly and terrifyingly, but they can't control sound. Some of our ancestors had a lower larynx due to mutation. Probably at first, everyone laughed at them because they couldn't scream so loudly, but they could make a bunch of different sounds and eventually invented language. And with language, you can warn of danger, sing a song, confess love, organize a joint hunt, and demand extra toppings on your pizza. This gave so many advantages that our talkative ancestors quickly outcompeted everyone else.
You should know who is to blame for your phobias. The amygdala is the fear processing center in the brain. It's these 0.2 cubic inches that decide how you'll act in a stressful situation. The amygdala even has eyes called cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Cortisol sends information to the brain about the threat, and based on previous experience, the amygdala modulates your reaction. Constant stress leads to increased cortisol production, which in turn affects metabolism and leads to obesity. This creates a vicious cycle of anxiety, insomnia, heart disease, diabetes, and much more. In general, the amygdala is an important thing, without which you are not yourself. Hippocampus, located in the temporal lobe of the brain, was named after the seahorse Hippocampus. This area is responsible for forming new memories and spatial navigation. This was discovered by accident when one person had the hippocampus removed due to epilepsy, and he not only forgot everything that had happened to him before, but also lost the ability to remember new things. So every time he was retold the story that...
You'll be shocked, but babies used to undergo surgery without anesthesia. Medicine of the past was not known for its humanity. For example, today, if you have depression, you go to a psychotherapist. But 100 years ago, lobotomy was used to treat depression. Until the mid-70s, there was a firm belief that newborns did not feel pain due to the immaturity of their pain receptors. Sounds like nonsense? Of course. Nevertheless, doctors considered it unnecessary to spend on proper anesthesia for children. They gave them a drug that immobilized them, but did not provide complete pain relief. In addition, after such operations, there's a risk of cardiovascular complications, metabolic disorders, and psychological problems. Only in the late 80s did scientists discover that babies feel pain. Well, that certainly deserves the award for most obvious discovery of the century. Bravo!